hope you guys have enjoyed the brunch so far. We wanted it to feel like your kitchen table. We wanted it to feel like being at home and enjoying one another's company. And we also wanted to take an opportunity to share just an encouraging story. Instead of it being a typical Sunday where I would preach, we decided we were going to share a little story. So hopefully there's been lots of stories already shared. But there's one significant story that I'd love for you guys to hear. I'm excited for you guys to hear today, and that's Becca's story. Many of you will maybe not have met Becca yet. Becca and moved to Winnipeg from out in BC, and she's got a pretty incredible story of God's faithfulness. And so I'm going to invite Becca to come on up, and all right. So, yeah, the kids are upstairs. We get to focus in. We get to relax a little bit. Becca, I'm really excited about what's about to happen and for people to hear your story this morning. Before we get into the details of the story, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. You and your husband, Jansen, like I said, have been in Winnipeg for how long now?
For a little over a year now.
Okay, a little over a year. And you moved here because Jansen is becoming a pilot.
Yes.
Wanting to get some hours in where there's no mountains to crash into.
Exactly. Yeah.
We have no mountains.
Yeah.
For those of you who are new to Winnipeg.
It's very flat here. Yeah.
It's very flat here. Now, you grew up on the West Coast, though. Mm-hmm. Mountains and ocean. Mm-hmm. And whereabouts did you grow up?
Victoria, BC.
Okay, right on the island.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Let's pause and think about how amazing it would be to be there right now. What was life like for you as a kid?
Life was full of adventure. My parents always took me and my sister out on hikes, walks, lots of trips to the beach. We were just always outside.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to adjust your mic just a little bit here so you can get rid of that ring. Okay, try that.
Hello.
Is that a little better? Brent will figure it out. We got it sorted. So lots of adventure. Mm-hmm. Parents very involved. What was faith like for you as a kid?
There was no faith growing up. I became a Christian when I was 16 at a summer camp. I was going through a really hard spot in my life, and I heard that there was a God that loved me despite everything that I've been through and everything that I've done, and I was just completely sold on that. So yeah, I started going to church when I was 16 by myself, and my mom started coming with me to support me, and now she's also a Christian.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you did the camp thing. Hey, it's okay to clap. That's good. Did the camp thing, and then, if I remember right, you and I were talking last week. You went back to that camp a couple of times.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were a counselor and kind of, okay. So then that leads to graduating high school. What do you do after high school? What's the big plan, the master plan?
Yeah, my big plan was I went to Bible college, and I was just on this train ride of faith. I was just going full speed. I was growing so much. I did a 1-year Bible college program at Summit Pacific College in Abbotsford.
Oh, yeah, I knew that was happening, yeah.
Yeah. And after that program, we went to Thailand for a month, and I taught English in Thailand, and I just felt like I was being used so much, and I felt passionate, and I felt like God's purpose in my life, and then I went back to that summer camp again, and I was being used again, and then after that, I came back to Victoria, and all that community that I made was gone, and I was just searching and seeking for that again. So I started praying a lot for God to use me in a really big way, which brings us into the story of my accident.
Okay, so your accident. You and your husband did not have a typical first date.
No.
No, it wasn't. I guess it technically wasn't even a first date.
No.
Maybe it was for Jansen, but for you it wasn't. But tell us about the day trip that you guys made to the waterfall.
Yeah, so we were friends for almost 4 years leading up to this, and he was always pursuing me. But I was like, no, we're just friends. I like it this way. Obviously, things have changed, but Yeah, God's good. And yeah, we were just planning this trip to a waterfall. It's called Mira Falls.
And we've got a picture of this waterfall.
Yeah, it's
pretty
beautiful. There's multiple drops that go into a lake, and it's surrounded by mountains. It was about a 4 to 5 hour drive from Victoria. So we started driving there on March 6, 2017. It was snowing, which is not typical for Victoria because
Right.
that's spring and it's usually really warm in Victoria, but it was snowing. And we arrived at the provincial park, and when you're driving in, there's all these Douglas fir trees and they're covered in snow, and there's this big blue lake and mountains everywhere. And
We don't understand Blue Lake. We like green we get, but yeah.
Yeah, it was bright
We'll
blue.
reference the picture.
Yeah,
So,
it was bright blue, like crystal clear, and it was snowing and just like a beautiful day. And we were so excited to see this waterfall. As soon as you get into the provincial park, you just lose cell service. It's very remote. We didn't see many cars driving in. And then we finally got to where the waterfall was, which was about close to a 2 hour drive into the park. We reached this parking lot that was covered in snow. There was no footprints, nothing other than like animal tracks. So we just parked and no one else was there. And we just started walking down the path, and right away you could hear just like this raging, roaring waterfall. And we're excited, and we're walking down the trail, and then the snow stopped falling, and the sun's peeking through the sky. And I just got a brand new phone with a really good camera, so I really wanted to get good pictures of this waterfall for my Instagram.
yeah, nice. Yeah.
Because I'm a millennial, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then we finally reached the end of the trail, which took about 15 minutes of walking. And there's all these rocks that you can see, like all the rocks that come out to the waterfall. All those
Let's go to the second picture there.
Yeah, so all of those rocks were covered in ice, like a really thick layer of ice. But that's what you walk on to get close to the waterfall to get good pictures. So
For the Instagram.
For the Instagram, yeah. So we're trying to be careful. We're walking around. No one else is there, and we're just amazed at like God's creation. And Jansen noticed that I was getting a bit too close, and he turned around and he said, "Be careful." And those words are just ingrained in my head because the next step I took, I wasn't careful. And I noticed there was a rock closest to where this big stream of rapids were, that it didn't look like it was covered in ice. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to stand right there. That's where I'm going to get the best picture. As soon as my foot stepped on that rock, I just slipped in right away. So I didn't fall right into a drop right away. I fell into a stream of rapids. But these rapids were so powerful that right away I was pushed into the middle, and I just didn't know what was happening. And all of a sudden, Jansen's running down these icy rocks, yelling my name. I have a million thoughts going through my head about what just happened, like how many people fall down a waterfall and survive. And I'm like thinking all these things, and I was supposed to go to Thailand in a few months on a missions trip, and I'm like, this is not God's plan for me right now. This is not supposed to be happening. Like, I am 21 years old. I'm not married. I've never had kids. I'm supposed to go to Thailand. I'm just like thinking of all these things, and I'm trying desperately to like grab onto rocks, but the rapids are just tossing me and tossing me, and my back is facing the direction that I'm headed in. So I can't see what's coming next. And what's coming next is a big drop. And then I just fall about 50 feet down a waterfall. And my head is just snapped back, and the water's just spraying on me full force. And I'm just like, my heart drops, and I'm like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. and I'm just falling, and like a few seconds pass, and then I just plunge into another stream of rapids, but the rapids are so powerful they push me all the way to the bottom of the water, so now I'm at the bottom kicking against this current, trying to get back to the top, and I'm terrified, and I'm fighting, and I'm thinking about how I didn't say goodbye to my mom or my dad that morning. I didn't say I love you to them. You think of all these things like in a near-death experience, and you like wish that that would never happen, and all these things that like you take for granted, you know, it all just goes through your head. And I'm kicking, and I felt something snap in my ankle, and then I just like looked up, and my eyes were closed, and I could just like feel this light shining on the water. I know that it was the sun peeking out of the clouds, but at that moment I just had to give up because I didn't have enough air in my lungs. I'm not a good swimmer. I can't hold my breath underwater for long, so I just gave up and I started to drown. So then I'm starting to drown, and the moment that I accept I'm going to die is the moment that the rapids stop working against me, and instead they just push me to the top. So all of a sudden I'm at the bottom, and now I'm at the top. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, I'm still fighting. I'm still in this. I'm still alive. Okay, like, what's next? I don't know what's next. So I'm still being tossed around in the rapids, and I notice that there's a log coming up beside me. So there was one log like this on top of the water, and there was a log just coming out of the water like that, just not moving. Like, praise Jesus for that log. I'm gonna grab that log. So I just grabbed onto that log with all of my strength and pulled my whole body onto the log. At this point, I'm down in this weird little valley with these two rock walls, because I just fell down a waterfall, and Jansen's up here somewhere, and I'm down here. He's running around trying to find me, and I'm stuck.
And you're frozen. And
yeah.
You're waterlogged.
Yeah, so I'm stuck in this weird little crevice thing.
And something's wrong with your leg.
So now I'm balancing on this log, and I have one hand on the log that's coming out of the water, and my other hand's on the rock wall, and I'm just staring out at the lake and all of the mountains, and I just started fearing God, and I was like, that was the moment that I understood what fearing God really meant. Like, I'm not scared of him. I'm just understanding that he's so powerful right now. And I really felt his presence there with me. And I just had to trust him. Like, he's not finished with me yet. I just need to trust him. So I just started calling out the name of Jesus over and over again. I just kept saying, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And I said it probably 10 times out loud, and then I just started screaming Jansen's name. I have a waterfall behind me and a waterfall in front of me. It's really loud, and I have a quiet voice.
Right, yeah.
Already, so you can imagine like the hysteria and the panic in my voice as I'm trying to be loud. And probably a minute passed, and then I heard Jansen's voice, and then another minute passed, and then his voice got closer, and in between me yelling his name, I'm still saying Jesus out loud, and I'm going into hypothermic shock, so I'm like touching my face and I can't feel anything. I'm getting confused, I can't feel anything, and my pelvis is hanging as well. So I don't know my injuries, but my pelvis is hanging and my ankle is snapped. And I'm balancing on a log that could be moving at any moment on these rapids. And I'm just trusting God. And then Jansen showed up, and he's peering over at me over this cliff. And he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No."
Typical guy question.
Yeah.
You all right down there?
Yeah, he asked something like that, and I was like, like, what do we do? And so then he took his jacket off, and he threw his jacket over the cliff to pull me up with it, but his jacket started to rip on the rocks. So then he noticed that there was a rock further down the next drop, and he asked me if I could let go of the log that I was holding on to and just go down the next waterfall and strategically grab onto the rock down there. And I'm like, no, I'm not letting go of this Douglas fir tree log. This is my savior right here. Like, I'm not letting go of this log because these rapids are more powerful than you know. And then I asked him to call 911, like maybe a search and rescue helicopter could show up, but there was no cell service. And then I asked him if there was anyone else there that could maybe help, and he looked around, no one was there. Just so eerie, just us fighting, like me, him, and God. And then we start having the conversation that you never want to have, and he's saying goodbye, and he's saying like that he loves me, and he's saying all the things that you never want to hear. And then we start visiting other ideas, like if he were to drive out to the town, which is about 2 hours away, and find someone, but I'm going into hypothermic shock, and what if I fell off the log and lost my balance? And so then we're just praying, and I'm just standing there, and then all of a sudden the log starts moving on the rapids, and my heart's racing, and I'm like, I'm gonna die. This is not God's plan for me. I'm supposed to go to Thailand. Like, I'm still thinking of this. And then Jansen noticed that there was a little rock that was coming out of like the wall that my hand was on, and it was just near the waterfall that had fallen down. So he pointed it out to me, and he said, if you walk down the log that you're on, strategically balancing on the log on your good foot, and you step up onto that little rock with your right foot, then maybe we could reach hands, because right now with like my arms all the way up, I couldn't reach him. So I said, okay, let's do it, but I couldn't feel my body, I couldn't feel the steps I was taking. It was literally the strength of God that pushed me to walk on that log. And Jansen just kept encouraging me the whole time I was walking. He just kept saying, good job, you're almost there, you can do it. And that's what kept me going. And I just kept walking and trusting Jesus that this was the way I was going to get out. And like, even if I were to slip and fall, like at least I tried. At least I tried. And then I finally reached the rock, and I lifted my foot up onto it, and we finally could touch hands. Jansen's whole upper body is hanging off of the cliff. He could have fallen off as well into the waterfall. So we touched hands, and I can't feel his hands, so we kept readjusting, and I kept saying, stop, I can't feel your hands. So I didn't know if I was holding his hands too tightly or not tight enough, and he was just pulling as hard as he could, and I am like really heavy because I had like a winter jacket on and I was wet, and all of a sudden I was sitting beside him. I don't even remember the full extent of him pulling me. I just remember like part of it, and then I was sitting beside him, just hugging him, and just in disbelief that that happened. And then after that, it was just like, get you to the hospital right away.
Yeah. So he didn't propose right after he pulled you out of the water?
No.
Okay.
No, he didn't propose. That was a few months later.
Yeah. So a pretty amazing story. And when you were telling me this story, you mentioned there was a passage of scripture like a week before all of this had happened that you had underlined in your Bible from the book of Psalms.
Yeah. So after the accident, I was really angry and really confused, and I didn't believe that was God's plan. I felt like it was my fault that I fell, like it was my stupidity to get that close. and I was just really mad, and I couldn't walk for a long time. I was in a wheelchair. So during that time that I couldn't walk, I felt led to read my Bible and open up my Bible to what I was reading before I had fallen, which was in the book of Psalms. And the months prior to the fall, I was always underlining the word steadfast, and I felt like that word was being spoken over me the months leading up to this fall, and I was researching into that word, like what it means, like persistent, loyalty, committed, faithful. And exactly a week before I had fallen, I read Psalm 94:18, which is, even when my foot slips, your steadfast love will hold me up. And exactly a week later, my foot slipped and I fell down a waterfall. But God's steadfast love held me up, and I trusted in that love.
That's awesome. Now, the journey isn't over. You're still recovering from some of your injuries.
Yeah.
No broken bones, though, which is...
No broken bones.
From somebody who's fallen off of a ladder of 12 feet to fall a 50-foot waterfall and no broken bones is pretty miraculous.
Yeah.
And to still be here is...
Yeah.
And God's still been faithful. And so I want to thank you for sharing your story and for continuing to walk in faithfulness and understanding that, you know, we have these plans. We have this idea, like it's Thailand or it's, you know, we know what we've got figured out, and God keeps leading us even when it doesn't go the way that we thought it was always going to come together. And so I appreciate you sharing your story. Can we give Becca a hand? An amazing story of God's faithfulness, his protection. I love that passage where even when your foot slips, your steadfast love will hold me up. And sometimes I think we question where God is in the midst of our stories. We wonder, maybe it's not as dramatic as falling off of a waterfall, but we have stuff that we wonder, where is God in this? Or what's his plan? Or how is he working things together? And I think what I hear from Becca's story and what I've known in my own life is, sometimes you have to trust when you can't see what's coming next. Sometimes you have to trust even though you hear the water rushing around you and you maybe can't see the log that's sticking out. You maybe don't know the way of salvation yet. But that you need to trust that God is big enough, that he's powerful enough, that he will carry you through. And I feel like he whispers to us in those moments. And maybe you needed to hear that this morning. Maybe you're going through something. Maybe there's a difficulty, there's a diagnosis, there's been something that has been weighing heavy on your heart, and you wonder, is God faithful? Is he trustworthy? And we want to encourage you this morning that he is. Even if it seems really dark, even if you don't know the way forward, he is faithful, he is trustworthy, and he's whispering to you this morning, will you trust me? Will you put your life in my hands? Will you let me lead you? And even when your body's tossed and you can't find your way to the surface, would you trust that there is a light? And that there is somebody who will lift you up and who will, with his unfailing love, will you lean into that unfailing love? And I want to thank you again, Becca, for sharing your story. If you'd like to hear more of Becca's story, you're welcome to take her out for coffee. They're a young married couple. Buy them dinner and hang out with them. Bless them. This is going to kind of wrap up our time together officially. On the table, we did put a prayer of blessing. If you want to pray a prayer of blessing over your table, if you want to stay, we're not kicking you out. You're welcome to stay and have some more food and coffee and stuff like that. There's no rush for us to leave. But if you want to stay and spend a moment praying for one another, if somebody has a need at your table and they're comfortable to share, feel free to take advantage of that. If it's uncomfortable for you, you're like, hey, I don't pray out loud, I don't pray with other people, that's totally cool too. This is an opt-in or opt-out sort of situation. We're not making anybody. But that prayer is there for you. If you'd like to take that and pray it quietly or pray over your table, we encourage you to do that. And we hope you feel like you've been to church. We hope you feel like you've had community and communion here together and trust the Spirit has moved. And we would love your feedback on this morning. We dreamt about this and thought this might be something that would be cool to do more than just once. And so there is a survey. It's in the U version. As you're heading out the door, you'll see a QR code there. If you open up your phone, with your camera, it'll automatically prompt you to a link. It'll take you a minute to answer. There's 4 questions. And we just love your feedback on this morning and see if we would do this again, how often we do it again, how we could make it better. And I want to thank Amy and her team again. The food was amazing. Thank you for all of that work. Just a quick announcement for the women's tea, for ladies who are hosting tables. They're going to have a short meeting downstairs in the fireside after we're done here this morning. And as this is the end of the formal gathering, it's not the end for everything. So if you have time and you want to stick around, please sit and visit. Sign up for Guess Who's Coming to dinner in the foyer at the connection station there. Grab another coffee, grab some more fruit. If you do need to go, we do want to send you with a blessing. If you do go to pick up your kids and want to come back, there's coloring pages for them to keep them a little bit busy here if you want to visit for some more. But as we're wrapping up, and if you do need to go, allow me to send you with this blessing. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you, wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness. May he protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors. Amen.